If so, answer in the affirmative.
Yeah. I do.
May be seated. Mr. Colvin Grannon is the president of the Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, one of the oldest community development organizations in the United States. Restoration owns and manages 300,000 square foot commercial and cultural center in Brooklyn, and that provides services and programs in the areas of arts and education, youth education, workforce development, and housing development. Mr. Grannon formerly served as founding director and CEO of Bridge Street Development Corporation, a community development corporation which continues to serve the community through promoting housing, development, homeownership, and financial literacy. He practiced law for over 17 years before embarking on his career in community development. He has been employed by the United States Department of Justice, the New York State Attorney General's Office, and the New York City Corporation Council. Mr. Grannon went to high school right here in Brooklyn before heading off to the University of Pennsylvania and, of course, Georgetown Law School. He has devoted much of his life to working for the people of Brooklyn, and we are happy to have him today as one of our witnesses. And then let me move on to Mr. David Robinson. David G. Robinson is the Associate Director of the Center for Information Technology Policy at Princeton University. Before accepting his current position, he was the founding managing editor of The American, a business magazine published by the American Enterprise Institute. He has written about the social impact of technology for The American, the Wall Street Journal, and Time magazine. His work at the center includes research and writing, strategic planning, and management of the center's operations. He is a graduate of Princeton University. Mr. Robinson, we welcome you. We welcome you, Mr. Grannon, as well. Gentlemen, I ask you to summarize your statement within 5 minutes, which will allow us to have the question and answer period. I think we've explained the light situation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's clear. So at this time, if you would just start out, Mr. Grannon, and of course, and remember the 5 minutes and then the summary. Thank you.
To Chairman Towns and the other members of the committee, I want to just thank you for the tone you're setting through your early intervention or oversight of this process. It really is a tremendous amount of resources that the country is investing in the stimulus plan, and it is critically important, as you have articulated, that there be oversight to ensure not just efficiency, but that the purposes of the legislation are achieved. I've been invited to speak about the impacts on the local community, a community such as Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is a very robust community, but of course has a substantial number of people who are low income and a substantial number of people who have been hurt by the current economic downturn. So I want to speak to that a little bit. I have submitted written testimony, which I will try to briefly summarize.
Right. Written testimony will be included in the record.
Thank you. But in summary, the way I'm looking at this, and I think the way many of us are looking at it, is that it's very clear, I believe, that the stimulus package will have some very concrete benefits for a community like Bedford-Stuyvesant, which has very high unemployment rates, very high mortgage foreclosure rates. As you know, high school graduation rates lag behind the city and statewide averages, and a relatively high poverty rate, despite the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that it is a robust community with a range of incomes, people of a range of household incomes, and a community that just before the economic downturn have been experiencing a very significant growth. But the Act will have benefits, clearly, I think, in the area of infrastructure development, energy efficiency, education, job training, and social safety net. And those benefits will improve the conditions in the community, particularly the physical conditions, and I speak a little bit about that in the testimony. I think what's less clear, despite that significant benefit, is whether residents of communities like Bedford-Stuyvesant, residents who are low-skilled and chronically unemployed, will directly receive employment opportunities as a result of the Act. And then the second consideration would be whether minority and women-owned businesses will directly receive business opportunities as a result of the Act. I don't want to, these are serious concerns, and I don't want to downplay the benefits because they are real. For example, in a place like Bedford-Stuyvesant, as I mentioned, because of the substantial number of people who are living in poverty or who are working poor, and in that poverty number are a fair number of people who are working poor, the fact that we're going to have extended unemployment insurance benefits, the Social Security one-time payment, the enhanced food stamp benefits, and lower payroll taxes are all going to have a significant positive impact for residents and local businesses. That's clear. I think in addition to that, the city of New York, I think, I'm in favor of what the city of New York did with its WIA money, the youth portion of it, which is to use a lion's share of it for summer youth employment. Because I think this summer, to have young people working, acquiring skills, being able to supplement the household income, that's going to be very important. And of course, that was driven also in part because these funds have to be spent in 2 years. And of course, then there's going to be substantially more workforce development funds available to assist residents, particularly in the job training area.
Of course, yes.
Particularly in the job training area. Other benefits as it relates to the physical conditions in the community, for example, one of the projects being funded by the City of New York, one of the transportation projects, is the improvement of a commercial corridor in central Brooklyn along Fulton Street, where Your Honor's offices were previously located. And that's going to result in new sidewalks, new signage, new street furnishings, new trees. This is important for that particular corridor because it will assist the local businesses in creating a safe and attractive environment that would facilitate the improvement of their business operations. Another area where there's going to be some concrete benefit that will assist low-income residents is the 5 minutes are up?
Yeah, I'm just ready to speak summarize. Yeah.
Well, let me move to the concerns very quickly.
At least you recognize the light.
Well, I saw you glance at it a couple of times.
And it stimulated you.
And that was a quick 5 minutes. I didn't think I had 5 minutes worth of material. But let me just say, the concerns have to do, the 2-year spending, obviously, it's reasonable given the intended purpose, which is to jumpstart the economy. But the concern is that as agency heads have thought about how they would spend funds in 2 years, they have been inclined to think about using existing contractual relationships, which frequently don't include small and minority-owned businesses. And the difficulty is trying to figure out processes that would incorporate them quickly.
Right.
And the other thing is the prevailing wage requirement, which in itself is also relatively reasonable when you look at it on its face. But again, that has the possibility of limiting the incorporation of low-skilled workers.
Right.
So I know I have to conclude, but maybe
Yeah,
we'll
thank
get
you.
this in a question period.
Right, thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Chairman Towns, Ranking Member Issa, and members of the committee, thank you very much for your invitation to appear here today and indeed for holding this important hearing. I suppose I'm here to help you, if I can, to frame some of the important questions that have already come up about recovery.gov and the use of the internet to make the stimulus as transparent as possible. Information technology can make Recovery Act activities more transparent than any government project has ever been. Government transparency means making all public information available in a way that is useful for citizens. Because we are starting fresh with recovery.gov, there is a rare opportunity here to get this right. And what might it mean in practice? First, and perhaps most obviously, transparency can help government institutions to become more effective. Where there is fraud or abuse, public attention gets problems solved. Where government is working well, that same attention can build trust and confidence in public actions. Secondly, transparency lets individuals put the pieces together in new and unexpected ways. For example, Vivek Kundra ran a contest while he was serving as Washington, D.C.'s chief technology officer that encouraged people to take advantage of data feeds published by the city. Inspired citizens responded by building a dashboard and map that shows local demographic, transit, business, and crime information all in an integrated website. If the same approach were used to publish recovery-related information, sites might emerge to highlight the benefits that stimulus funding brings to specific communities and, by extension, the good work of state and local officials across America. Thirdly, transparency can let individuals and businesses spot the economic opportunities that are available to them, helping not only themselves, but also the economy as a whole. The Recovery Act creates so many possible grants, contracts, and loans that it's tough to match each opportunity to the party who can really make the most of it. There ought to be competition among different ways of finding out about stimulus opportunities. In each case, reuse is the key. Whatever public data is reported by states or agencies, we need to make it easy for innovators to get their own complete copy of that data in a computer-friendly way so that innovators can develop new tools. An increasing number of experts and groups have highlighted the importance of data reuse. The Association for Computing Machinery is one example. Their Public Policy Committee, on which I serve, recently issued consensus recommendations on open government, which are included with my written testimony. The most recent, as has been discussed, the most recent and detailed information we have about transparency for the stimulus appears in this April 3rd memo from OMB. There are some good signs, but also a concern about the hundreds of billions of dollars that will be spent by states. They report that at least initially in this guidance, recovery.gov will be able to tell people that money was sent to a certain state and then to a locality, but not what ultimately became of the funds. For now, states will decide how much detail to reveal. The longer-term picture, though, is less clear. OMB reserves the right to require reporting on, quote, all levels of subawards, end quote. How will they use that power? Uncertainty about OMB's intentions leaves states with some tough choices. Just as the federal government is doing, state governments may wish to create new infrastructures to expose the details of their Recovery Act spending to public view. But any new system that a state deploys today could turn out to be a risky investment. It could become redundant or even obsolete if OMB later decides to centralize and standardize the nationwide reporting of the same information. Ideally, OMB would either collect detailed information about state stimulus spending itself, or else set a clear and public minimum standard of disclosure for each state to follow. How far does OMB plan to expand its reporting requirements for states? Will it collect all of the data that we need, for real transparency, or will it leave room and cede responsibility for states to collect and manage the most detailed information? Either way, OMB should lose no time in reaching a decision and clearly and publicly communicating its intentions. Thanks for the chance to appear, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. We've been joined by the Controller of the City of New York, and it's a long-standing policy that we swear in all of our witnesses. So will you please stand up and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, answer in the affirmative.
I do.
Let the record reflect that the Controller of the City of New York answered in the affirmative. You may be seated. Mr. Controller, that you allowed 5 minutes to give a statement, and then, of course, your entire statement will be included in the record, and then allow us to have a question and answer period. You may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is a pleasure in seeing you this afternoon. Ranking Member Issa, members of the committee, observers, again, good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for holding this hearing and inviting me to discuss the implementation of the economic stimulus package in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. As many of you know, New York City is set to receive more than $4.5 billion under President Obama's economic stimulus package, and these funds could not be more necessary. Our city today faces an economic crisis unlike any we have seen since the Second World War, and people need help. We've lost over 100,000 jobs since August. Millions of New Yorkers are worried about skyrocketing transit and water rates, and families across our city are struggling just to make ends meet. Yet, while the stimulus package should certainly be seen as a tremendous opportunity to create jobs, bolster our struggling economy, and provide relief to our city's many forgotten New Yorkers, we should also look at the distribution of these funds as another kind of opportunity as well. The opportunity to put in place a blueprint for much-needed transparency and accountability reforms in city government. These reforms are long overdue. In fact, for almost 8 years now, during my tenure as City Controller, I repeatedly called on city agencies to improve the all-too-often opaque process by which taxpayer funds are dispersed. In January of 2008, for example, I called on the administration to immediately implement transparency reforms at the city's Industrial Development Agency, an agency that promotes economic development through the disbursement of taxpayer funds to small businesses. As an IDA board member, I saw firsthand the need to shine a bright light on the selection process of IDA beneficiaries, and in a letter to Deputy Mayor Lieber, I made 10 detailed recommendations towards that goal. 2 months ago, and let me skip over that, we must avoid these pitfalls with stimulus monies and ensure that job creation and salary criteria are clearly laid out before funds are dispersed. I've also sought to infuse good government principles like openness, transparency, and accountability into all my work as City Controller. Last year, my office introduced a new online application that for the first time allows vendors to track online the real-time payments or real-time status of their payments from the city. When I took office in 2002, I insisted that every audit we conducted be posted on my website. And to date, yes, we've saved over $248 million in savings. In keeping with the principles of good government, I believe that before a single stimulus dollar is dispersed, we must first and foremost ensure that these funds are accurately accounted for and that outcomes are clear or carefully measured and monitored. This is a job that will in part be undertaken by the authority of my office. The charter-mandated role of the Comptroller's Office is to ensure that all funds are tracked accurately and transparently, and this is a responsibility I take seriously. As many of you know, my office is also responsible for approving all contracts and agreements between the city and its many vendors. As Comptroller, I've made close inspection of these contracts a priority, and this new focus has saved our city millions. Rest assured, I'll bring this same vigilance and attention to detail to my work overseeing the contracts and contract amendments that result from stimulus spending. Through the registration process, my office will continue to ensure the integrity of vendors and the bidding process. We're already moving forward on many fronts to ensure the smooth transition of stimulus monies to job-creating, shovel-ready projects in our city. 2 weeks ago, my staff and the mayor's met with the General Accounting Office to discuss its needs as we work to design a system that will track and display stimulus funds in real time. One potential difficulty in monitoring stimulus funds will likely be the need to differentiate stimulus money spent under pre-existing contracts. For example, before stimulus funds are used to add jobs or benefits to an existing contract, we must first put in place a system that allows for the separate tracking and outcome monitoring of stimulus funds and funds spent under that pre-existing contract. This will surely be a challenge. Fortunately, however, the city already has in place strict contractor integrity reviews and detailed procurement rules. In the end, we have to move quickly. New Yorkers deserve, above all, a transparent system that will, by its very nature, help ensure that taxpayer monies are spent responsibly. Under my watch, New Yorkers will be afforded this right and will be able to see exactly how, why, when, and where their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent. Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Let me thank all of you for your testimony, and of course, we now move to the question and answer period. Let me begin with you, Mr. Robinson. In a recent article, you suggested that regulatory rules and regulations impede the modernization of government websites. What regulations would need to be changed to remedy this problem, and what risk would there be to changing those regulations?
That is an excellent question, Mr. Chairman, and as I'm sure you can imagine, the answer would call for a great deal of detail about the particular ones, but I think the bird eye, which I'd be pleased to provide and to consult with, and I'm sure my colleagues would as well, the bird's eye view is that many laws that were passed before the internet have unintended implications that are impeding the use of the web by government. So, for example, if you have a group of citizens collaborating on a website, are they a federal advisory committee? Or if people are filling out an online poll, does that raise Paperwork Reduction Act issues? So I would say there are probably two levels on which this can be addressed. One is that the administration is doing what it can through executive action, or intends to do what it can. But I think that Congress should look at the long list of more than 20 different regimes that current federal webmasters have to comply with, and think about laws that would sweep those, maybe in the case of the web, aside in favor of some clear guidance that's designed for the internet.
Right. Thank you very much. And I really would hope that you would submit some additional information to the specifics, and we will keep the record open for that, because that is, as you know, is something that I've been talking about for quite some time now.
Yes, sir. I'll look forward to doing that.
Thank you. Right. Mr. Grannon, based on your experience, do you think that community organizations in general currently have the ability to track and audit the stimulus funds they receive? Or can they do that?
I think it depends. I think that with respect to existing programs, for example, weatherization is an existing program where community-based organizations have been involved for, in some cases, more than 2 decades, sometimes almost 3, and the processes are long-standing and well monitored by the state. I think in some other additional areas, it may be questionable. And I think one of the concerns is how much administrative burden you put on not-for-profits in this process as well. I think that obviously there's a balance. We need to be able to account for the funds, but at the same time, some of the administrative burdens that are imposed by government make it very difficult for organizations to participate, not just not-for-profits, but small businesses.
All right. Let me ask you, Mr. Controller, that based on the fact that this has never happened before, during my lifetime, where $787 billion was just sort of put out into the country, and of course, and that we call upon to monitor this. Do you have the staff, or do you think that it's possible to do it within the present structure?
I believe that we have the staff in this current environment to be able to monitor and oversee this? Yes, I do. I think that the changes that have been made over the last 7 or 8 years, the growth and use of technology, some of the the foundations that we've established already, as well as new databases, will allow us to be able to do that. I think obviously it will take not just my office, but working in conjunction with the mayor's office and others, the ability to get that done. But I believe that we should be able to track this money, to follow it, and to make sure that we can account for every dollar. I think that is the mandate. I think that is something that we should be able to do. As I said, obviously, if this was 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to make that representation. But I think that now, given the use of technology and other things, we should be able to do that.
Right. Well, the reason I sort of raised that question with you is that Mr. Devaney, who is the superstar of the Inspector Generals, I mean, he is indicated to us that even if we are aggressive, he said, out of the $787 billion, $55 billion would go to waste, fraud, and abuse. So that's the reason why I raised the question. To me, that's a shocking number. And of course, and I think that that's a lot of money that could be used to really turn things around in a positive way, and that will end up in somebody's pocket in the wrong way.
Mr. Chairman, I couldn't agree with you more. I think in this current economic environment that we are in, every dollar needs to be well spent, and to go for the purposes that the members of both the House and Senate, as well as the President, have determined that it should be used for. So no, I think it is important that government be pushed to its limit, to be able to oversee, to be able to make sure that every dollar is well spent and that there is no waste. And given that, I think it is an excellent opportunity for government in the future to make sure that there is less waste as we move forward, not just in these dollars, but in other dollars being spent.
Right. Gentleman from California, Ranking Member Mr. Issa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boy, that question leads right into my question, so I'll follow up with you, Mr. Thompson. You believe that you can oversee the stimulus funds in order to minimize waste, fraud, and abuse, right?
Yes.
Do you surf using Google? Or do you surf the net using Google or Yahoo or any of the other search engines?
Sure.
Can I search your data the same way by going in, clicking on it, and finding the relevant information so that I can look over your shoulder?
Absolutely. By the time we put in place, along with the mayor's office, certain databases, yes, you should be able to surf the web to be able to visit specific websites, whether it's mine or others.
No, that wasn't my question. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to second guess your oversight for waste, fraud, and abuse, contract pricing, mm-hmm. Who is the sub and the sub of the sub, and whether they're qualified as a minority or women-owned business. I want to know how much they were dispersed for what on a given day. Will I be able to do that?
You should be. I'm not sure how many levels down that you'd be able to do that.
Do you have that source data, and is that technically public data that would be available under normal freedom of information?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is available under freedom of information.
And I'm being the devil's advocate for a reason, because the chairman and I have, if you will, a very public joint agenda to try to make that possible. Today, the federal government's not giving you any money to facilitate that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I'm stealing a little Mr. Robinson's testimony. Today, we're not giving you standards so that searchability engines could search more easily by having common database rules and terms, right? So that leads me into the question, and I'll go to Mr. Robinson just for a second, because this is his thunder. I stole a little. Do you believe that either with existing funds that can be redeployed or with new funds, that the federal government should be tasked to not only set those standards, but then facilitate that on an ongoing basis so that the public can, in fact, search any use of federal funds, whether directly by the federal government or all the way down to a municipality that's spending it with a sub of a sub, if that information is technically public information? Mr. Robinson.
I think that, yes, absolutely.
And is that technology, as I use the example of Google, technically available but not implemented?
There's a question here about how much of the presentation of the data should be the government's task. And I think we would all agree that it would be ideal for recovery.gov and sites like it that perhaps cover the local areas to be user-friendly and to be able to be used. But at the same time, it would be ideal if the data itself that underlies such a site were published, so there could be many different ways of searching. So if you like, Google could have a copy, Yahoo could have a copy, and others might as well, and compete to show us the data most clearly. These are technically possible things, but I think they do require a considered commitment to implement.
You know, this committee and under the chairman's leadership has been quoting Mr. Devaney, and rightfully so, that the expectation, if government does a good job, and if this is no more wasteful than other federal programs, is that we will waste or lose or misallocate at least $55 billion. I'm going to ask each of you whether, no matter where the funds come from, if we find a way to make available, both in federal implementation and particularly at your levels, 2%, that'd be about $15 billion, to help in that implementation, standard setting, modernization of equipment, so that either through your own engines or, as Mr. Robinson said, through competition within the search engine community, this information that you pour through every day could also be poured through by the public that pays our taxes. Would that be a fair investment?
It would be both a fair and a good investment, yes.
Mr. Robinson, would it be a fair, good, and is it enough?
It would be fair and good. Let me stop there, except to say that in addition to helping government, I would hope some fraction of it could be used to incentivize third parties to also join you in the work of oversight, because I think that would also be highly effective.
Mr. Granton.
Well, I think that's right. I think that there are lots of stakeholders who are interested in the information, even from the perspective of whether people are receiving fair treatment with respect to the allocation of funds.
And I would assume if that database was effective and that competition was there so that searches became better and easier, as most of us when we Google or Yahoo or MSN search, that your organization would then have an easier time doing its task because that would be a resource for you.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And I yield to the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Kucinich.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I voted for the stimulus in the hopes that the money is going to get to help the people for whom it's intended. After witnessing many years of trickle-down economics, I understood that the trickle seldom gets down. Now, I want to find out about, does the torrent of money that's coming through, it's not a trickle anymore, it's $787 billion, how does it get down? Now, Mr. Grantham, in your work, you, in Bedford-Stuyvesant restoration, are you concerned that this great amount of money that you see coming is not going to get to people who really need it?
Well, I think I have to make a distinction, right? There are two categories, right? So the social safety net money, I think I have little concern will get there. I believe it will. I think that the money that could stimulate business in communities like Bedford-Stuyvesant, I have greater concern. Because unless there is some intentional mechanism to open up avenues that have been previously been closed, the money's going to flow as it has in the past. And so that's a major concern. I think one of the things is that we want to break away from putting from having the proportion of funds that go to communities like this be funds that are subsistence, and have a greater amount of those funds be funds that generate enterprise and work.
Mr. Thompson, would you agree with that?
I would say that that is one of the challenges in making sure that funds don't necessarily just go to the same old places.
That's the point that I've
Absolutely.
seen all around the country, because it's like not only do we often have a two-class society in terms of where the income goes, But the structure of businesses in a community, the fact that some people have been getting the money all these years, they tend to just keep getting it instead of these new entrepreneurs, particularly in a minority business,
Absolutely.
having the opportunities. So what should we be doing to make sure?
Well, I think the
that
transparency has a lot to do with it.
But, you know, I want to address that. Now, I hear Mr. Robinson, you know, you're from Princeton and you're involved in information technology, and that's very good. Now, according to the CIA's fact book, has all kinds of information that is sometimes useful. And one of the bits of information, they say that in America, there's about approximately 223 million users of the internet. Now, for those who are aware of the population statistics, the population of our country is over 300 million. It's quite possible that 1 out of every 4 persons in this country do not use the internet. Now, if we're talking about the trickle getting down, it's most likely, and I'm just guessing at this, but it's most likely that people who don't use the internet happen to be in neighborhoods where there's a lot of poverty, social disorganization, and such things, and they can't afford either the internet connection or they can't afford the terminal, whatever. How do we make sure that people still know about these programs? Because if you're on the other side of the information divide, how do you get the information?
That is not only is it a good question, but it's an absolutely salient question, and one, in fact, that we have studied. I would say that it's the analogy I might use is computers in the classroom. You know, they put sometimes in some programs, where I was in Maryland public schools, 1 computer in every classroom, and it was just for the teacher. And we thought at the time, you know, it'll just be one, and you can't have all the students using, 30 students using 1 computer. And that was true, but what turned out to happen was that the teacher would use the computer to get new lesson plans and other new information.
How do you get the information through to people?
That would enrich for the rest of us. And so what I would say about the internet is that many of if the information about what is available to disadvantaged communities is itself public instead of being buried in some file somewhere, that means that people who are engaged in the work of trying to lift up those communities, people like Mr. Granum and his colleagues and others around the country, are better able to assist their communities in need. Even if the people they are helping are not online, it is still the case that the internet could help them.
Thank you. Here's what I'm getting at, Mr. Chairman. I just want to conclude with this. With all this money being available, it seems to me we should be able to hire people to knock on doors to tell people about programs that are available. That's all I had to say. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. The gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Platts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, my thanks to all 3 of our witnesses for your participation here today and your work day in and day out in your respective positions. Mr. Granum, I have more of a comment and a thanks than a question for you, and that is just your inclusion in your testimony, the comments about the prevailing wage and the impact on job creation and who will be able to participate. I'm one who believes that unfortunately, prevailing wage, maybe well-intended when initially created, has resulted today in negative consequences. And I say that as a former Teamster union member, knowing that my union colleagues well support the prevailing wage, but you well lay out in your testimony that the prevailing wage requirements in this bill will likely lead to fewer jobs being created because of the inflated cost associated with prevailing wage, as well as making it harder for small business owners and minority-owned business owners to participate in because of the regulations that go with prevailing wage. And so I want to thank you for including that as a relevant thing that we need to be aware of, that may be well-intended. At the end of the day, we may be hurting more people than we're helping with prevailing wage. So if you want to comment, that would be great.
I would just say it's somewhat uncomfortable for me to criticize prevailing wage. I am from a union family as well, but on the other hand, there are many projects that are getting done in communities like Bedford-Stuyvesant that would not get done if prevailing wage was required in all of them. It would just not be feasible to do the projects.
And I think that's the issue here, is that we recognize perhaps some merits of that law, but know that there should be limitations, and we need to be smarter maybe in how we impose that law. So I appreciate you including that in your testimony. Mr. Robinson, what would you identify in your written testimony? You addressed the concerns about the administration's guidance thus far, and I sought to raise that with the state and city officials in the previous panel. What do you see as the most glaring shortcomings of the administration's guidance to state and local governments and other recipients of these funds thus far?
Well, I understood in the earlier panel, in response to your question, Mr. Schuyler, to indicate that they haven't received contradictory guidance from these variety of sources, the different agencies of the federal government, the OMB, and so on. And I suppose that is cause for comfort. But at the same time, I think part of the reason that there haven't been any contradictory things is that it's been so vague in some respects that there hasn't really been the kind of guidance that really could make things absolutely clear. So the guidance that was issued April 3rd says that the OMB intends to give states the option of either reporting directly into a federal website or else compiling reports at the state level and submitting those. I'm not sure that having a diversity of approaches among states, I'm not sure what that would do necessarily for data uniformity, but in any case, the question of how data is submitted is only half the puzzle. The other half is, what data do they have to submit? And on that, I would submit that the guidance that was released on April 3rd is less than totally clear. It's clear that they intend to require some additional information besides what is presently required. In the future, they talk about expanding the reporting model, but the question of how far it'll be expanded and whether or not when they're done expanding it, it'll still be the case that we need extra information that has to come from the states because the OMB guidance or the ultimate OMB requirements don't go deep enough. That remains to be seen.
And a possible negative result of that, and you reference it in your written, is that states may spend a lot of money on information technology and designing these reporting systems, and then a month from now, 2 months from now, OMB or GAO comes back and says, well, actually we want it in this form or this information, not that information, and so then we have a new expenditure that doesn't need to be. So is that your concern, that we need to get it right? The sooner the better, the more complete the better, and the more uniform the better.
Yeah, absolutely. One concern is obsolescence of investments. The other is a wait-and-see attitude, where the state says, I don't know what OMB is going to do, so I'll wait. And meanwhile, the monies are being spent and perhaps not being tracked.
Right. And either way, there's a risk. So OMB's got to make a decision, and hopefully a decision that is uniform for all agencies at the federal government that are dispersing funds rather than a hodgepodge approach. Okay. Mr. Chairman, thank you. And again, my thanks to the witnesses.
Thank you, and let me just say that I know we've talked about prevailing wages. I think if we get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, there will be no problem paying it. I think that's, let me thank all of the witnesses and members who attended this hearing today. Before we adjourn, let me state that America demands that all stakeholders under the Recovery Act work in good faith to protect the public interest and safeguard our unprecedented investment in America's future. I want to be clear, make it crystal clear, that this committee will be watching and working feverishly to ensure accountability and transparency over the funds. Let me also thank the Ranking Member Issa for his leadership in standing up with me to demand the strictest oversight. Finally, please let the record demonstrate my submission of a binder with documents relating to this hearing. And of course, I want to conclude by saying to all of you, I appreciate you coming out. You can see the fact that we have a lot to do. So without objections, I enter this binder into the committee record. And without objections, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you.